Hi there everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. So we've got a packed show for you this time around. 6 races to look at from Sandown, from Newbury and from Ayr as well. It really was a week when we enjoyed some tremendous action on the racing TV, and we are going to start at Sandown Park on Wednesday afternoon. It was a listed race, it was over a mile. Please note the ground, it was pretty testing. It was soft, heavy in places, and it led to horses on the round course coming across towards the stand side. Mostahdaf was favourite, trying to get his career back on track. 11-4 Sabuska. Roscollin, who's had a tremendous season, was well back, 9-2 from 11-2. And it was 13-2 and bigger the rest. And it was Mostahdaf who really did get himself going once again to land this. Sent off favourite. He jumped from stall number 7 in the Shadwell colours, and he beat Escobar, who was dropped out and held up as he usually is. Sabuska was back in 3rd, and Roscollin, who's out wide at this stage, he was back in 4th place. Roscollin was kept wide, and he was a little bit keen, and he didn't really see the race out. The soft conditions really suit him, but look at him there, just pulling a bit too hard on the wide outside, and he didn't get home. Mostahdaf, however, let's pick him out. Well, he's just there. Got a nice toe from Bull Ace, who made the pace, and just in behind him is Escobar, who comes with his customary late surge, and he's actually better than the bare result, for this was a steadily run affair. Roscollin is trying to be rated on the lead by James Doyle. Bull Ace isn't going that fast, and Mostahdaf is in a good position at tracking him. We know that it was steady because of the course track sectionals. The finishing speed percentage is thus 108.29. Now bear in mind they're finishing uphill, they're on pretty soft ground as well, and they've angled across towards the stand side, but nonetheless this was quite steady, and they finished off 8.29% quicker through the final 3 furlongs than they ran the rest of the race. And what does that really mean? Well, what it means is that some horse like Escobar was at a positional disadvantage. We'll pick him out here. He's just tracking Mostahdaf, but Mostahdaf's going to get first jump on him. He does come home very strongly. Indeed, Escobar, as we watch it from here, fires the fastest last 3 furlongs. He comes home in 36.84. The winner, 37.01. But the winner just had that positional advantage. He had that length, and he managed to maintain the lead all the way to the line, despite Escobar closing in pretty rapidly in the closing stages. Whitecap, horse that we've highlighted here on The Verdict before, that's Sabuska, charging late as he usually does. He's a horse who loves the straight course at Ascot. That really suits Sabuska. Look forward to seeing him back there again one day. Roscollin just weakening out of it. I think a mile on really soft ground, and you've been a bit keen as well, just tests him a bit. Possibly 7 furlongs is better for him on this kind of ground, but he has had a tremendous season. Mostahdaf, he does like cutting the ground. His only defeat in his career so far came on really quick ground at Royal Ascot, but he's back and he's up and running. I think he's quite highly thought of as well, because he's got an entry in the Kipco Champions Stakes. So how do we sum this up? Well, let's just have a look and see what we dealt with. Well, we dealt with quite a steadily run affair, didn't we? They think they went fairly steady early on. It was a strong race, I think, for a listed contest, but it really was quite a steady gallop. Jockeys, I think, wary somewhat of the testing conditions. Mostahdaf, what do we make of him? Well, he's now 4 out of 5 in his career. And note that his 2 turf wins are both on heavy ground. I think he's better when he's got a little bit of cut. We've got to keep an eye on Escobar going forward. I know he's a tough horse to win with, but he fired the fastest final 3 furlongs. Red cap to the outside of Mostahdaf, 36.84. Mostahdaf was 37.01, but he just had a bit too much to do. But Escobar's clearly still in good heart, as he has been all season. And he's entered in the Heritage Handicap at Ascot at the beginning of October. That track really suits him because he's a hold-up horse, and hold-up horses on the straight course at Ascot are at an advantage generally. And he's won there before as well. So keep a look out for him at Ascot beginning of October. Mostahdaf, well, what about him? Where are they going to go with him? Well, he's entered in the Kipco Champions Stakes. He's got plenty of stamina in his pedigree, so a step up in trip from the mile that we saw there in the Fortune to 10 furlongs will be no problem given his pedigree, but the company that he's going to have to keep there could be a big problem. So Mostahdaf was a nice winner for John and Thady Gosden, and they doubled up with Damaar. at Sandown on Wednesday in a novice stakes that I think is worth keeping an eye on going forward. It was over 7 furlongs, and Woodton was a 13-8 favourite and quite well supported. There was money for Damaar though at 2-1, and Atherby was 7-2, and it was 11-2 and bigger the rest. Damaar then wins here for John Gosden, jumped out of stall number 5 and got the better of Woodton from 1, and Atherby jumped from stall 8 back in 3rd place. Now, with Mostahdaf, we saw that we had a steadily run affair. We've had a steadily run affair here as well, I think. The finishing speed percentage was 107.54%, and you could have told that by looking at the demeanours of these horses. Atherby's keen. Quite a few of these horses were pulling hard for their heads, and that's courtesy of the steady pace, and that finishing speed percentage, 107.54, tells us all we need to know. But what you're seeing visually really does back that up. The winner is on the outside. This is a race that John Gosden won with Palace Pier in 2019. I'm not necessarily sure that this horse is another Palace Pier, but I think he's pretty good. He's got a kind of short, choppy action, but he handled conditions pretty well. He's by Decorated Knight, and he's got loads and loads of stamina on the dam side of his pedigree, which suggests really that I think he's better than the bare result, because they've crawled here. It's turned into a little bit of a sprint, but he's able to quicken up well enough to win. But I think he'd have been oh so more impressive if he got a good gallop to go out, given all the stamina that's in his pedigree. Woodton's on the opposite side of the track to the winner. There's your winner, and there's the runner-up. He's run really well too, and if you watch him close to the line, he's picking up quite well in the closing stages. He looks like he's a decent stayer in the making too. But I think Damaar ultimately could be very, very useful. The last 3 furlongs, he fired home in 38.05. That's nothing flash at all, really. If we're looking at 12-second furlongs being a benchmark over this kind of trip, well, you can see that 12 seconds will be 36. He's gone 38.05, but he's on debut, he's uphill, he's on softish ground as well, and he's done all that he's been asked to by Rab Havlin in the closing stages. Look at Woodton there. That's the point I'm making about him with that sheepskin noseband. He's running on quite well in the closing stages. The last 50 yards he really picked up in good style. I think a little race like this is definitely within his grasp. At this point of the day, the jockeys weren't quite sure which part of the track to go to, so they ended up sort of coming down the middle and almost, as far as Woodton's concerned, towards the far side. They might have been better just angling a little bit further across. But I do like the winner. It's picked up well. The horse has just basically got loads and loads of stamina, and I'm sure a mile and a half will be something that John and Thady Gosden explore with him next season. So what do we see? Well, I think we saw a pretty useful winner, really. I think he's much better than the bare result. I think there's a lot more to come from him. It was, however, a steadily run race, and we're not going to get a good time figure out of this contest, so we have to read between the lines somewhat. But the conditions played their part, and a slow final time wasn't very good. It's 1:35.85. Well, last 3 furlongs, 38.05, and a finishing speed percentage of 107.54. So what we know is it was steadily run. They finished off quite quickly, although they weren't really sprinting. It was just a race for stayers, in my opinion. But Damaar could be a lot better than the bare result. He was green and very raw in the preliminaries. He didn't really handle the paddock very well. He went to post very green, and he was green in the race too. So there's a lot more to come from him, and he's got a stamina-laden pedigree. His Dam Arwa was from a family of stayers. They included, of course, the brilliant Order of St George, who was good enough to win at 2.5 miles. So there's a ton of stamina on the Dam side. Make a note of Woodton in second. Plenty of stamina in that pedigree as well. And an Autumn Maiden definitely in the grasp of Woodton. He's a Racing TV tracker horse. From Sandown midweek, let's go to Newbury on Friday for the Haynes Hanson Clark 2-year-old contest, and a good field was assembled for this. Plenty was expected of King of Conquest, the 5-4 favourite. Westover was 3-1, 5-1 Bolt Hole. Zechariah was 9-1, in from 11s, and it was 12s and bigger the rest. A race that's got a rich history. Lots of good winners have come out of this contest in the past, and it was Zechariah who came out on top on this occasion. Tom Marquand riding for Martyn Meade, a welcome change of luck for Martyn, and Zechariah made every yard of the running here, and it was a very good tactical ride, I think, from Tom Marquand, who's over on the far side. They didn't quite know what to do at this point. They didn't know where to go. Oisin Murphy was pretty keen to be over towards the stand side, but it was Tom Marquand who dominated this race from the front on Zechariah. And it wasn't a strongly run race, and we've had 2 races at Sandown in the verdict so far that were steadily run, and here's another one. They went a bit of a crawl early on. They gradually wound it up according to the course track sectionals, with a finishing speed percentage ultimately of 105.49, so they're finishing off the last 3 furlongs a lot quicker than they ran the rest of the race, and the winner definitely had a tactical advantage. Westover, the second place horse, is a little bit behind. He's the winner's here, and there's Westover just in there, so he's got about 2 or 3 lengths to find on a horse who's got an easy lead and he's rolling along nicely under Tom Marquand, getting all his own way. He's not being pestered up front. King of Conquest is sat second. He proves to be really one-paced in the Godolphin blue. Ultimately, he looks like a stayer, but he certainly wasn't quick enough for this particular test. And Marquand is now beginning to wind it up, and the furlong 4 to furlong 7, according to the course track sections, were all sub 12-second furlongs. Marquand gradually upping the ante as the race went on. Now Westover, there is in second, his tongue lolling out, he's hanging a little bit as well. He did shape quite well in defeat. His 6th furlong was the fastest in the race at 11.35, but he had too much to do. The winner was away and gone by the time Westover was able to fire that, and the rest really well beaten off. King of Conquest just plugging away for 3rd place, but to Zechariah streaking clear in the closing stages. This is a good ride from Tom Marquand, and he could be a pretty useful horse. He's certainly got some decent entries going forward as well, but that was very good from Tom Marquand from the front. It wasn't a fast overall time, but he's gradually wound it up. He's gone steady for about 2.5, and then he's wound it up, and he has dictated this whole race to his rivals. And Zechariah is a pretty useful individual, you'd have thought. So what do we learn from the Haynes, Hanson and Clark this time around? Did we see a future Guineas winner, a Derby winner? Maybe not. It wasn't a strongly run race. We know the finishing speed percentage, according to course tracks, was 105.49. And if a horse is able to do that and has got to the front and got an easy lead, very hard to run them down when they're able to do that. And therefore, it was a good tactical ride from Tom Marquand. What else did we find out? Well, sub 12-second furlongs 4 to 7, gradually getting faster and faster between 4 and 7. Marquand just putting his foot down on the accelerator gently throughout the race and establishing a good advantage over Westover, and that horse could never reel him in. Westover, yeah, it was a good run, I think. He did lug to his left a little bit in the closing stages, but he did shape well. He was fastest through furlong 6 at 11.35. I think he's probably a stayer, and he's worth putting in your Racing TV tracker, Westover. I think there'll be more races to be won with him, and as there will be with Zechariah, but he'll never get a trip like that again, you wouldn't have thought. He's got 4 entries, and they include a couple of Group 1s. They include the Beresford and the Royal Lodge. It'll be interesting to see what his trainer, who's a very shrewd trainer, Martyn Meade, decides to do with Zechariah, the winner of the Haynes, Hanson and Clark. One of the best performances of the week, in my opinion, came at Newbury on Friday, and it came courtesy of Silent Escape, who landed the Dubai Duty Free Cup Stakes, a listed race over a straight 7 furlongs. Al Sahel was favourite, along with Silent Escape, who was quite well backed. Al Bashir was 11 to 2 and 8 to 1 Dubai. It was 12s and bigger the rest. Al Sahel came here on the back of a fast time win. Last time up was very impressive in a small field at Haydock. This was a completely different scenario, a lot more competitive for Al Sahel, and he was not up to the job. Silent Escape was, though. She jumped from stall 8. She beats Dubai from stall 3 and Al Sahel from 9. It was a wave of blue as they crossed the line. Godolphin 1, 2, 3. The Charlie Appleby team going great guns at the moment, but this is a winner for Saeed bin Suroor, and this horse is in front at this stage, this filly. She's got the red cap, the Godolphin blue and the red cap, and she dictates under Oisin Murphy. But unlike the Haynes, Hanson and Clark, where Zechariah and Tom Marquand dictated a very steady gallop and gradually wound it up, this was an honest pace. This was a proper pace. And Oisin Murphy's gone even fractions out in front. And this is a very good filly. She's produced a decent final time of 1:22.83. and the finishing speed percentage was 100.93. Murphy's got it absolutely spot on out in front. He has rated her energy perfectly, and she's not disappointed. She said to him, "You're riding me properly, Oisin. I'm going to go and do it." And she does, and she quickens up in great style. The last 3 furlongs is impressive. 35.17. Looking at even 12s, we'd think maybe 36. Well, she's dipped under that, and she's seen off Dubai and Al Sahel, who lunge at her in the closing stages, but she keeps on rolling. And she doesn't keep on rolling just because she had an easy lead out in front and was able to save petrol. She's just kept going because she's very good. She's very, very useful. Dubai is a decent type in his own right in second place. Al Sahel on his day is very good as well. But she's beaten them really, really hands down. This is very impressive. It's produced a decent time form speed figure. It's a fast overall time, and she's quickened up very well. Quick word on Al Sahel. He's impressive when he doesn't have to fight, when he doesn't have to go through the wall. When things get really tough, he finds it tough. But when he gets his own way, he can be blistering. He can put up some really sensational times. He's what I would call a really good time trial horse, but he finds it quite hard when he's up against other horses who are going to really make him work very hard. And she, make no mistake, is very good indeed. And she's fast, as those course track sectionals show us. What did we see then? Well, we definitely saw an honestly run race, an evenly run race, a well-judged race from Oisin Murphy. And we saw one of the best time performances of the week by a mile from Progressive Filly. We saw quite a lot of slowly run races. The good races last week, quite a lot of them were slowly run. This wasn't. This was an honest gallop set by Oisin Murphy. And the final time that she produced, 1:22.83, was good, really good. The best time of the day, and finishing speed percentage of 100.93 showed just how well Murphy judged it. So it was a good ride from him, but there is absolutely no way he stole this from the front. She was vulnerable if anything was good enough to get her, and they just weren't. I think she's very, very useful, this filly. I think she's capable of winning a group race on the back of this. I think she could be Group 2 at least going forward. She might be an interesting horse for Meydan next year when the carnival kicks into gear. Would she be as effective at 6 furlongs? I think she might be. You know, she's pretty quick. She travelled well through that, and furlongs 5 and 6 give us evidence of how quick she is. They were 11.06, both of those furlongs, and she kept rolling as well. So not only does she stay 7 well, she's got plenty of speed mid-race as well. So dropping to 6, a stiff 6, might be all right. Form does look strong. I mentioned Dubai and Al Sahel. They give the former a pretty strong look. And although Al Sahel struggles in this sort of company, Dubai makes this look very solid indeed. And this filly, there she is. She is very good indeed. Remember the name, Silent Escape. Time now to go to Newbury on Saturday, a race that was formerly known as an Ark Trial. It's not much of an Ark Trial these days, but it was an interesting race nonetheless, and it was yet another steadily run affair that we have to deal with here. Al-Arsi went off favourite 6-4 on over this mile and 3 furlongs. Fox's Tails was 9-4, Ilarab 9-1. Solid Stone was 12s and weak in the market, and Ad Infinitum was a 50-1 shot. Right, let's take this from the start here, and it's quite an interesting race to try and analyse really, because they went very steady in the early stages. It all got a little bit messy. I think the first general point to make is that Solid Stone is gradually improving, and he makes just about all the running here to land this at a big price. He'd won on his previous start as well. He'd been 4th at Salisbury prior to that, where he found loads for pressure. And he's a very gutsy and tough individual. For a number of points in the home straight here, he looked beaten, but he kept finding and he kept rallying and he got back up in the closing stages. He's out in front here, dictating matters from Fox's Tails, who finished 2nd, and just in behind in the yellow colours is Ilarab, who finished in 3rd place. Al-Arsi was the big disappointment. He's in the Shadwell colours, the striped cap, and he looms up going very well, but he doesn't find much in the closing stages. He's a little bit keen, courtesy of the steady gallop, as is Ad Infinitum out the back. He's reefing and pulling for his head, and he was a little bit outclassed here anyway. The final time was 2 minutes 21.68. It's a slow time. It really is a slow time, courtesy of the very steady gallop that they went in the early stages. 110.88 is your finishing speed percentage, just backing up what you can see. Horses reefing, horses pulling. Al-Arsi's getting keen there, looking behind. And they're not going a strong gallop, and the finishing speed percentage tells us all we need to know. 110.88, 10.88. Quicker through the final 3 furlongs than the rest of the race. Look at Al-Arsi there, look. Jockey's hands are up off the withers, and he's almost pulling his way into contention. He's done too much. He's using up too much petrol, and he doesn't find much in the closing stages because of that. Do we give him another chance? Well, perhaps we do, but he's the sort of horse who needs delivering late off a strong gallop. Everything's got to drop right for him. Now Solid Stone's under pressure, and it's around about now where he traded at 850 to 1 in running because he looked beaten. Al-Arsi's cruising up, trading odds on. Fox's Tails has got the better of Solid Stone, you would think. Ilarab's coming with a challenge. They're all there in contention. Even Ad Infinitum's not out of it because of the steady gallop. And now Fox's Tails goes on, Ilarab goes on. Al-Arsi's had enough. Solid Stone's never had enough. He never gives up, this horse. He finds loads for pressure and he gets back up in the closing stages. Tough performance from Solid Stone. I don't think the form's worth anything really. The steady gallop ruined it as a contest, but it was great to watch, and it was great to see the tenacity of Solid Stone in the closing stages. So Michael Stout's really got this horse on a bit of a roll. I think he's capable of a bit better. I think he'll stay a bit further as well. There's Al-Arsi, look, left-hand side of the screen, cruising up. What does he find off the bridle? Zilch. Absolutely nothing. I think that's because he was a bit keen in the early stages. But Solid Stone in comparison, he finds tons under pressure. Good run from the second, Fox's Tails. He's a very consistent and tough horse. Ilarab's run perfectly respectably too. Ad Infinitum outclassed, but Solid Stone just far too strong for them in the last 100 yards or so. Final furlong of 12.09 for Solid Stone was a lot better than anything else could produce. So his strongest part of the race was in the final furlong. It was the same last time when he won at Windsor, and it was the same at Salisbury as well, when he stayed on really strongly late on too. So what do we see? Well, we saw a very steadily run affair, didn't we? I don't think we've seen horses that are going to run in the Ark. It might be a bit of an Ark Trial, but they're not going to go there, are they? Steadily run, slow final time, 2:21.68. What else can we say about this? Well, Solid Stone, he's dictated a steady gallop, but he may have been better with a stronger gallop, you think. The way he finished off here, he looked beaten. He looked like they were going to out-sprint him. You can see there from the jockey's body language. Look at Al-Arsi cruising up on the far side. Fox's Tails, you'd think's got the better of Solid Stone, but no. He finds loads for pressure, and he's a tough, really tough individual. I think he would be better with a stronger gallop, though. Look at this, 850 to 1, just about a few strides back from where we are now. He would have traded around about that when he looked absolutely beaten. Strong at the line, as I mentioned, 12.09 was his final furlong. That means absolutely nothing in isolation. But if you look at the course track sectionals that are on the Racing TV website and compare that with what everything was achieved by all of the other runners, you'll see that was much better than the rest. He was strongest at the line, this horse, by some way for William Buick. What do we make of Al-Arsi? He was a bit keen, wasn't he? But he didn't finish his race off. And I think he really does have some severe questions to answer now. It'll be very interesting to see what William Haggas decides to do with him. The winner was highlighted here on the verdict. Yeah, let's give ourselves a plug as one to follow after finishing fourth at Salisbury a couple of starts ago, where he was very strong late on. And we said, I think, on that episode of the verdict, don't give up on Solid Stone. I hope you didn't. One of the most interesting races of the week, no doubt, was the Ayr Gold Cup. The Western meeting was fabulous. It was running really nice conditions on the west coast of Scotland. We saw some tremendous racing there. And their feature was the Ayr Gold Cup on Saturday afternoon. And Great Ambassador was a 3-1 favourite on the back of his win at York prior to this. Comanche Falls, the Stewards Cup winner, 13-2. Bielsa, 15-2 from 10s. Popmaster, 15-2. And 15-2 about Just Frank. 14s and bigger the rest. Bielsa well back then. And those that supported him will be absolutely delighted with how things panned out. Let's have a look at how he obliged from stall 25 right against the stand side. Here he is, Great Ambassador, second over there. So it makes for fascinating analysis, this race. Let's send them on a little bit more. It's possible that the best ground on the track was hard against both rails and not necessarily down the middle. There's a possibility that that was the case. Throughout the Western meeting, evidence of the races that we'd had on the straight course and wisdom was telling us that you wanted to be middle to low. But Kevin Stott had no choice really from 25, and I thought it was a brave ride from him because he just decided to stick to the stand side rail. All of the jockeys wanted to be middled or far side. Those horses in the middle, they could have come across to the stand side. They didn't want to, and Kevin didn't want to be with them. He thought, no, I'm going to plough a lone furrow up against this rail. And Bielsa was not in a competitive scenario at all. He was basically out there on his own doing a time trial. And he was able to ride the rail to success. Whereas Great Ambassador, look, here he is. What a run he's put up. He's over on the far side. And he is sprinting clear of his rivals over on the far side and has put up a tremendous performance. But he's always in a competitive scenario, whereas Bielsa wasn't. He was out on his own, doing his own thing, never saw another horse and just kept rolling up against the rail where perhaps the ground was a little bit quicker than elsewhere. Look at Great Ambassador. Look how far he's beaten the rest of them on the far side. And you'd have to say that if you back Great Ambassador, you probably feel a little bit unlucky, really, because he's thrashed them over on the far side, and he remains a very nice horse going forward, perhaps on the all-weather in the winter for a valuable sprint. He's by Exceed and Excel. He'll handle the all-weather, no problem whatsoever. Mr. Wagyu back in third place. He's a fantastic season, Mr. Wagyu. Mongali was back in fourth. They came from stalls 16 and 15. So Mr. Wagyu won the race in the middle of the track. Great Ambassador, if you like, won the race on the far side, and Bielsa won the race this side. Kevin Ryan winning this race yet again. He's won it 5 times now, and he's a big supporter of Leeds United as well. So he'll have been smarting from the 1-1 draw against Newcastle on Friday night, but he went and landed a big prize on Saturday afternoon, and it was good from Kevin Stott. He wanted to do his own thing. He wasn't going to be a sheep and just follow everybody else. He'll stay on the stand side, ride possibly to instructions, and it's worked for Bielsa, who's threatened to win one of these in the past. He's shown very useful form, but he's got his own way this time, and he's able to take advantage. He'd run very well in the Stewards Cup, of course, so he went a bit hard early on, but things worked out for him really well here. How do we sum this up then? Well, it was a furiously competitive Ayr Gold Cup. I think it was a really good race if you look at the ratings. Wisdom and previous evidence, the meeting suggested low draws were best. Well, Great Ambassador came from 1, and he's won his race easily on the far side. But from 25, a lone furrow for Bielsa wins the day. 4 of the first 5 were drawn high, 25, 20, 15 and 16, which is very interesting. Most people thought the low draws would prevail, or no. Great Ambassador from stall 1 confirmed he's a very useful sprinter. Ed Walker's really got him going forward, this horse, and there's going to be a lot more to come from him, I think. Great Ambassador, really good. There's Bielsa coming back in. Very strong sprint handicap, I think. I had a look at the ratings for this. The first 5 home rating between 98 and 106. So it's what you'd expect for a high-class sprint handicap such as this. The winner, Bielsa, where's he going to go? Well, he's at Ascot. He's in a 7-furlong handicap there. It's a heritage handicap, a very valuable one, but I think we see, if you look through his form, that 6 furlongs with a bit of ease in the ground is exactly what he wants. I don't think a stiff 7 at Ascot would necessarily suit him. This was his day, Bielsa. I'm not sure that there'll be a lot more to come from him. I'm pretty sure there'll be loads more to come from Great Ambassador, who was a bit unlucky. Well, that's it for this week's edition of The Verdict. I hope you enjoyed looking back at some of the best of the action that took place on racing TV tracks over the last 7 days or so. Silent Escape, the name to take out of this week's programme. See you again next time.